Good morning, everybody. Oh, what the hell's going on here? There we go. I think I fixed it. Hello. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to the show. Do I have the right one in there? Yes, I do. Welcome to the Memorial Day show. A little late just because I didn't feel like getting up on time. I didn't set my alarm. I just got up when I got up. And so here I am. And here you are. And I'm glad you're here. In the United States, if you're not aware, today's Memorial Day, day where we honor those who have gone before us in the service of this country and that lost their lives, gave the ultimate sacrifice. But we also honor those who served and are no longer with us, like my father, who was a field medic in the Korean War. Didn't die in the war, obviously. He lived to. I think he. How old was that day when he died? I think he was 81 years old. And, came back, went to college on the GI Bill, was the first black man to go to Wayne State University, Nebraska. It was called Wayne State Teachers College at the time. Then got his master's degree from the University of Denver, came back to Omaha, taught high school for 34 years at Omaha Benson High School. And at some point in the time, he and my mom adopted me in that period of time, not after that. And I live a better life just because my father did what he did. And what's going on here? What's going on there? That's weird. How'd that happen? Anyway, I'll fix that when I figure it out. Anyway, that's we do. We honor the dead. And what seems rather soft, a little low. Is the volume low? It could be. What the hell's going on? Oh, it is. What's going on with my monitor here? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on there. Let's try this. Does that help? It seems as though my this is as high as it's going to go today. I don't know why that is. I haven't changed anything here. My outputs all are the same. Try this. There we go. That helps a little bit. Anyway, so does that help? Good. All right. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. And but actually, well, we're not going to do this. We'll start the show with that, but I have lots of news in the hopper. I may get to some of it. I don't have a time frame today, like I normally do, that I usually have to be done by in 90 minutes. And since I started late, I will finish late also. But anyway, welcome to the show. Johnny, play the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog Studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, P. Dog Night.
All right, there we go again. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P Dog Night on the internet. Welcome back to the P Dog Night channel on the 30th of May, 2022. And I don't know what's going on here. The sound, everything's goofy here today. I'm going to figure this out after the show. But anyway, Hope you enjoyed the marching band music that I had before the show. I've never tried that on that thing that I use. Oh, I never tweeted out the show either. God, this is not a good gauge of what I do here. Let me tweet the show out. I didn't do it. Give me a second. That was dumb. I'm a little discombobulated because I'm not used to sleeping in. It's weird. Anyway, so there we go. Show's tweeted out. Now I got to put it out in these other places. Well, glad I'm going to run the show a little longer today because you get to see me make the sausage, I guess. God, what is going on with my brain? Anyway, it's Memorial Day in the United States, and so I thought I'd take a little time to oh, come on. This is terrible. I take a little time to just show you what's happening. There's a few a few topics on Twitter that are geared toward Memorial Day, so we'll go through a few of those messages, and but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. And I'll leave them up if you want to read through some of the things. There's some are people articles talking about the sacrifice people make. Some are just people's messages, which are somewhat inspirational. Some are just things about Memorial Day, and it's one of those days where, at least on that topic, do I look a little pale? Oh yeah, it's the something happened. My entire every time my Streamlabs resets, it goes back to defaults, and so it's not necessarily Streamlabs is not set up for the type of lighting that I use. I mean, I use fairly bright lighting, and so I get washed out whenever I do this, and it gets reset. So I'll fix the lighting here in a second. Right now, I'm just sending out my social media messages to let people know the show is going. And some of these, I feel like sometimes it's futile because I don't think I have a lot of followers on some of these other sites, but I feel like eventually someone will discover it and perhaps share it. And so I will keep doing it until that happens. But like, I have maybe a total of 200 followers on the other 5 social media sites I use. And so it's not really, it's, I don't know if it's worth it or not, but it's, it's never, I suppose it's never wrong to do that. You might as well just see what you can get. It never hurts. All right, let's fix the brightness, change the contrast. And I'm looking a little more normal, aren't I? Saturation up. And I suppose that's close enough, right? There, do I look a little more normal now? I'll get it the way I like it later, but this is how it's gonna be. So, let's say good morning, everybody, and just get into the show, because right now I'm just babbling. First in the chat today was our friend Somnambul Nation, who gets the bell. Yay, and that's quiet too. What the hell's going on? Hang on a second. Let's try that again. Okay, that's a little better. That's embarrassing. What the hell happened? Did someone come down and mess with my stuff down here? Everything's messed up. Anyway, also good morning, Avocados Dabbly, the Devil's Advocate, Plague Dr. Zach Osborne. Also good morning, Simon Wood. I did it again. Wolf Wood, my favorite Canadian is in the house, Jaeger Pony. Mike Savage, Blarg. Good morning also to, oh shit, everything. God. Good morning, Tyler Alexander. What's happening? Good morning, John Migda. Welcome back. Zombie Teddy's in the house. Rockhopper, another friend from down under. Also, good morning to Johnny Hellcat, the original viewer of the Morning Night Live. James Colley, who's probably, yep, there it is. I knew, but 10 seconds in. Boomer. That's all right. Also, good morning to Who else is here? I said John McDavid. Fox P2's in the house. Nice to see you. Sydney Oberg. Hi, Sydney. Welcome back. Also, good morning, Septus Wolf. All right, that's the start. There are, 14 people here and 6 likes. Hit the like button while you're here, and hopefully people will figure out I am running the show today. So, like I said, I was going to spend my morning. I'm going to redo my whole scenes anyway today. Today's the day, finally. So it should be a new set tomorrow. Today's Memorial Day, and so I pulled up 3 trending topics on Twitter today, just so we can go through some of these just Memorial Day messages from various media and various people. For example, make sure this all gets on here. All right, so this is kind of cool. Now, it's not an American memorial monument, but this monument, this is a World War II monument in Hungary, which is pretty cool. You've got this, this family here, and then the missing soldier. I think that's just a really, really cool monument. John Rich, the country music singer, says empire after empire throughout the centuries have tried to defeat America, but none of them have ever succeeded. Why? Because of men and women willing to shed their own blood to keep our nation free. We honor their sacrifice today and pledge to never forget. Hashtag Memorial Day. Also, Lisa P. That's my daughter. Good morning. Good morning, daughter, and mother of my grandchild. Also, it is foolish. This is someone, I don't know who VB is. It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men lived. I think that's a very powerful message. In fact, I think this guy, just a guy playing taps, probably. Which, you know what? It's weird. I don't know how. Well, here, I'm going to see what happens. I don't care if I get a strike. Here's I think this is pretty powerful anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and show it and not worry about it. So here we go. On this Memorial Day. Wow. Very, it's funny. It's just, that gets to you a little bit. It gets to me a little bit. I don't know about you, but that gets to me a little bit just thinking about that. So anyway, more people talking about Memorial Day. Meghan McCain, regardless of what you think of Meghan McCain, some like her, some don't. I don't care. She says, nothing about freedom comes free. I think of this heartbreaking photo every Memorial Day. We honor those who didn't come home and gave their greatest sacrifice for our freedoms. We are indebted to you as a country forever. Absolutely. Spot on. Well done, Meghan McCain. Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I'm confused about the video she chose to put on here, but her message is good. We remember our brothers and sisters who sacrificed all. We reflect on how we can best honor their sacrifice in our own lives. Treat each other, wish, respect, and come together as Americans around our shared principles rooted in the Constitution. Greater love has no one than this, that one laid down his life for his friends. John 1513. So anyway, you can go through there. One thing, Jake Tapper, if you ever follow his feed this time of year, he always honors multiple different people who have died in the service of this country. Lots of messages about D-Day, and for example. So also trending today, and I'll have all three of these. These are just links to the topic of that day, so you can scroll through messages yourself. Arlington National Cemetery is also trending. Yesterday, Arlington National Cemetery hosted the inaugural Flowers of Remembrance Day, giving the public an opportunity to cross the plaza and lay a flower at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and to honor and sacrifice our fallen heroes. This is a thread by the Arlington National Cemetery, which I'll go through. And that's just this is the video of people being allowed to do that. Normally, now it's the only time of the year that they allow people to walk across this tomb. It's always there's a guard there that is normally there, but this one day a year they do that. Good morning, Papa Hotep. How you doing? So as you can see, the videos, they allow people to walk across and lay flowers at the tomb. And there's a video there. I'm not going to play it just because I'm not sure if it's. I don't care if it's copyrighted, but I'm going to keep going through this thread though. On May 30th, 1958, Memorial Day, the remains of the two identified American servicemen killed in action during World War II and the Korean War, respectively, are buried at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery. So that's kind of the history, a little bit of a history behind that. Rest in soul. My son. Okay, this is just someone who says his son-in-law is now at Arlington. So lots of people remembering people who are there, loved ones. Let's see, celebrating Memorial Day, visiting Arlington National Cemetery. Luckily, I'm a 35-minute drive and can get there whenever I need to. Such a beautiful place. Let's celebrate all the men and women who actually protect our freedom. So it's a really good, oh, this is weird. Now, this is interesting. So they pass by where they have these, the Southern battle flag. Now remember, this is not the Confederate. They say a lot of people like to call this Confederate flag, but this is actually a regiment battle flag in the Revolutionary War, and then it became a symbol of Southern, Southern regiments. And it's not the Confederate. For example, it's not the Confederate national flag. The Confederate national flag actually has white. It has the stars and bars in the corner, but. So I'm curious about this, and I'm not, Section 16 Arlington National Cemetery, where there's several stars and bars, and I'm trying to figure it out. And someone says, who knew Nazis were buried at Arlington? Well, that's not exactly what that's about. But I'm not sure if those are from Southern regiments. So lots of people ripping on that particular picture. Interesting. Let's see. Memorial Day videos from Arlington National Cemetery. So, General Lee's house on the hill there. He lost his plantation because they lost the Civil War, and it was turned into the National Cemetery. Let this Memorial Day be a reminder that U.S. soldiers are buried there in victory. Interesting. And let's see, today President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden attended a mass at St. Joseph on the Brandywine Church in Delaware before his visit to the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington, which is a tradition that the President of the United States go and lay wreath at Arlington National Cemetery. So that's also trending today. And the third one, I'm only going through three. The term men and women is trending, and that's because a lot of people remember it wasn't just men, obviously. It was U.S. service people, men and women. Obviously, a vast majority are men, but also many women lay down their lives in the service of the United States. Across the United States this weekend, people are paying tribute to those who died while serving their country. The Memorial Day holiday is observed on the last Monday in May. Maj Touré, men and women struggled, killed, and died for you to have an opportunity. The opportunities you have today. Please take a moment to acknowledge, remember, and live life with purpose, and honor them and their ultimate sacrifices. And that's a message for all Americans, man. I tell you, John Rich, we already read him because his also has that phrase in it. Herschel Walker, always remember the brave men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country and freedoms. God bless all America. Interesting. Zuby is from, where is Zuby from? He's from England. Decades ago, smart people. Oh, that's a whole different, that's not even related to it. Kaylee McEnady, on this Memorial Day, remember the best among us, the courageous men and women of the United States military who gave their lives so that we could have freedom. Thank you for your sacrifice. So lots of messages. You can, like I said, in tabs today, for those of you who watch the show normally or maybe new, every day, everything we go through, all the links, all the tweets, all the videos I will update in the description. There'll be one link that'll take you to a page with links to everything that we've gone through today. So these 3 links, Memorial Day, Arlington National Cemetery, and Men and Women, will be in that list of links at the one-time link in the second paragraph of the description after the show. So we're going to move on, though. Some things that are trending. This Sandra Smith is trending. I was trying to figure out who this was. And apparently, so Sandra Smith is a Fox News personality. And Mo Brooks went on the show yesterday. I think he's a senator, a representative from Missouri, I believe. Is he a representative or senator? Mo Brooks is House of Representatives. And had a little clash with Sandra Smith on Fox News. Now, apparently, this is a topic that you normally can't talk about on YouTube, so I'm just going to report on what happened. I'm not going to give any opinions. But anyway, GOP Representative Mo Brooks clashes with Fox News' Sandra Smith over the 2020 election. He's from Alabama. I'm sorry, not Missouri. Alabama Representative Mo Brooks insisted during a Fox News interview Sunday that widespread voter fraud cost former President Donald Trump the 2020 election, forcing Fox News Sunday guest host Sandra Smith to intervene and push back. The conversation with Brooks went off the rails after Smith asked the lawmaker about Trump pulling his endorsement from Brooks for the U.S. Senate. Brooks said the 45th president's decision revolved around his wanting to rescind the election, and I can understand him wanting to do that. Okay, he was robbed of my judgment. This is Mo Brooks' words. YouTube, shut the hell up. And his blah blah blah. So I can understand the desire. And just to go on the record, there's been still no evidence or proof provided that there was any sort of fraud in the. Smith interrupted. Oh no, that's wrong. Brooks lashed out. I don't know why you people in the media keep saying that, but it's absolutely false. That is absolutely false. You keep saying that every time, but it's absolutely false. So here's the rub. People who say there was absolutely none are wrong. People who say they absolutely know that would have changed anything are wrong because they don't know. But was there some? Absolutely. Was there enough to change the election? Well, we don't know because no one's allowing that to proceed. Some places they've said, they've done counts and said, nope, we did it right. There's a documentary out there that if you are interested, you can go watch it. And it has certainly some evidence of something. Not saying it would change anything, not anything like that at all. But the idea that there was none is ridiculous. There's been some that has been thoroughly documented in a couple directions. So the idea that anyone would say there was none, just to go on record, there has still been no evidence or proof provided that there was any sort of fraud in the election. That can't even be true. That cannot be true. Good morning, GDSOB. What's happening? Also, Gen T. What's up? Nice to see you. And Straight Sith Mail. Good morning. So anyway, here's what's false, sir? Smith asked. Quote, you had 150 congressmen and senators who absolutely disagree with you on what you just said, Brooks said. So What are you calling them? Why? What are you calling them when you say 150 Republican senators and congressmen look at the voter fraud issue and said there was a major problem? What are you calling the commission on the... Now she comes back with... Oh, no, he kept going. What are you calling the congressman on federal election reform, a bipartisan committee with Jimmy Carter on the one hand and James Baker, Ronald Reagan's White House chief of staff on the other, back in 2005, who analyzed the systemic weaknesses, systemic flaws in our election system and warned us that elections are going to be stolen if we don't fix these problems, and those problems were not fixed, the congressman ranted. So I don't know who's telling you there's no evidence, but that tells me you haven't done your homework. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is, he continued. As the two repeatedly talked over each other, Smith attempted to point out that judges and other officials from the Trump administration have declared there was no widespread voter fraud in the election. Now that's an important word because they like to use that word a lot. No, the court's timeout. Don't go into that. Brooks began. Wait a minute. No, I'm getting. Okay, so anyway, if you want to watch this, I think they have a clip maybe. Oh, they don't have it here, but you can find the clip on Fox News. They go back and forth, and now, but he did bring up the documentary by Dennis Snooze, 2,000 Mules, that has come out. Look at how many mass mail-out ballots there were across the United States. Smith hit back that the documentary has been looked at and fact-checked by multiple outlets. That's hilarious because their fact checks are basically, but whatever. I don't, at this point we have a president where we're not changing it now, but I think they need to at least determine if there are weaknesses in our system. And I really think they should go back and do a little more research into what he's talking about. So anyway. Real quick, thank you, Johnny Hellcat, for being the first show sponsor today with $4.99. And Johnny Hellcat, you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Thank you very much, sir. Johnny Hellcat says, my grandfather lied to get into World War II. He was considered too old, and he'd never talk about it. After he passed, we heard that one of his medals was earned by carrying wounded to the med tent, despite having shrapnel lodged in his head and neck. Wow. Well, honor to your grandfather, Johnny Hellcat. Thank you very much for sharing that. Greatly appreciated. So, yeah, if you have a relative, and that might be if you do sponsor today, tell us about your relatives. If you know of any. Good morning. Pat's in the house. What's up, my man? Good morning, Pat. Nice to have you here. You're watching at work. Well, good. I'm glad it's funny because I listen to stuff at work all the time because it's a great way to get through my day. Anyway, all right. Let's move on. So that's why Sandra Smith is trending. Also on trending, the Mona Lisa is trending. Apparently, there was a protest that pisses me off. Let me just say that right now. Where is it? Here it is. This Reuters article. The Mona Lisa left unharmed, but smeared in cream in a climate protest stunt. Really? In Paris, the Mona Lisa was left shaken but unharmed on Sunday. Well, shaken, it's an inanimate object, but it is a painting. Shaken but left unharmed when a visitor to the Louvre tried to smash the glass protecting the world's famous painting before smearing a cream across its surface in an apparent climate-related publicity stunt. The perpetrator was a man disguised as an old lady who jumped out of a wheelchair before attacking the glass. Maybe this is just nuts to me, posted the author of the video of the incident's aftermath that shows a Louvre staffer cleaning the glass. He then proceeds to smear cake on the glass and throws roses everywhere before being tackled by security. So at least they didn't damage the painting. The Louvre was not immediately available for comment, but there's a picture of what happened. Visitors take pictures of and video of the painting Mona Lisa after cake was smeared on the protective glass at the Louvre Museum in Paris. Well, thank goodness they've encased a bunch of the great art and glass of that no one can fuck with it. Another video posted on social media showed the same staffer finishing cleaning the paint while another attendant removes the wheelchair from in front of the Da Vinci masterpiece. Think of the earth. People are destroying the earth, the man dressed in a wig said in French in another video posting that showed him being led away from the Paris gallery with the wheelchair, indicating that the incident likely had an environmentalist motive. Well, you know, let's see this video here if it'll play here. Oh, this is just the aftermath. So they're cleaning the glass across the painting. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, why do assholes pull these stunts? That's a great question, Pat. I have no idea. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. I don't know why the music's not playing, but thank you, sir. Mona Lisa attacked. Da Vinci unavailable for comment. You are... Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. That's awesome. All right, let's keep going here. Get off my screen, Candace Owens. So we know we've been talking about the Second Amendment a lot lately with the huge incidents in Buffalo and in Texas, and basically every weekend in a large city near you. Ted Cruz, though, I think this is at the NRA convention, gave a fiery speech in defense of the Second Amendment. We're not responding to tragedy by giving up our rights. Ted Cruz gave an impassioned defense of the Second Amendment during the National Rifle Association's annual convention in Texas, days after a man murdered 19 children at an elementary school. Cruz's remarks came after an 18-year-old Latino. Now, this is, okay. This is Daily Wire. I'm not sure that was necessary, but then again, maybe it is, because otherwise you'll, certainly they would tell you if it was a white male. So I guess that's the Daily Caller staying to form on these types of incidents. After an 18-year-old Latino attacked Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas on Tuesday before being killed by an off-duty U.S. Border Patrol agent, the response by local enforcement officials has been the focus of most of the criticism following the tragedy, as numerous mistakes were made. Oh, you think? Jeez, these guys are just shitheads. I want to get into that, but I'm going to hold off for a moment. If the children are the picture of innocence, then the lunatics and the monsters like this one, the one who would deliberately murder children, they are the picture of evil, Cruz said. The anguish of those families right now is unimaginable, the very worst pain on earth. All of us in Texas need to come together and comfort those families right now. We need to love them, embrace them, and take care of them. Cruz said it was important for officials to understand what was driving tragedies like the one in Uvalde, because when we were growing up, this kind of thing didn't happen. Yeah, the guns were always there, so I'm not sure why this is happening now. It's because of just because of our complete just giving excuse to everything, giving everyone, it's always like it's I don't know. Tanashi, how you doing? Tanashi Shinhao, our favorite Russian participant. Welcome, sir. Cruz said, okay, kids may have worried about getting into a fist fight at school, maybe a bloody nose at recess, but we were never worried about a psychopath coming into our classroom and committing murder. Cruz slammed the elites who dominate our culture for pushing the notion that firearms lie at the root of the problem. It's far easier to slander one's political adversaries and to demand that responsible citizens forfeit their constitutional rights than it is to examine the cultural sickness giving birth to unspeakable acts of evil. Cruz said, it's far less comfortable to ask why despair and isolation and violent hatred is so prevalent in America. It requires a sick soul to drive a truck into a crowded sidewalk, to plant a bomb at a marathon, or to fly a plane into a building. It requires a sick soul to open fire in a movie theater or a church or in a school. A speeding automobile in the hands of a madman is as deadly as a jet airplane. Tragedies like this tragedies like the events this week are a mirror forcing us to ask hard questions, demanding that we see where our culture is failing, looking at broken families, absent fathers, declining church attendance, social media bullying, violent online content, desensitizing the act of murder in video games, chronic isolation, prescription drug and opioid abuse, and their collective efforts on the psyche of young Americans is both complicated and multifaceted. Cruz continued. It's a lot easier to moralize about guns and to shriek about those you disagree with politically, but it's never been about guns. Cruz noted that for millions of Americans, the Second Amendment is not an abstract theory. They live in conditions that require them to protect themselves from evil. Cruz said that the Obama White House reported that firearms are used defensively to stop crime between 500,000 and 1 million times every single year. That I didn't know. I didn't. Good point, Allie. Democrats will say guns. Republicans will say mental health. Nothing will change. And what needs to change the most is the attitudes, I think. Taking guns away from these responsible Americans will not make them safer, nor will it make our nations more secure, Cruz said. In the age where elites embrace defunding the police, when homelessness runs rampant, when gangs dominate entire communities, when radical district attorneys refuse to prosecute violent crime in cities across America, rarely has the Second Amendment been more necessary to secure rights of their fellow citizens. Cruz noted that there are plenty of major cities across the U.S. that have strict gun control laws and yet are still violent and among some of the most dangerous places in the United States. Cruz also cited a quote from John R. Lott, the Crime and Prevention Research Center, who wrote, "Out of 101 counties where we have identified mass public shootings occurring, the United States ranked 66th in the per capita frequency of these attacks and 56th in the murder rate." Cruz knows that the Uvalde attacker passed a background check, that solutions offered by Democrats to address the problem would not have stopped the tragedy. That's the one I always wonder about too. So, and I'm listening to some of them, and I tick off the list of things they say. Now, the only thing that would have changed in this one, if there was a so-called assault weapon ban, which are just glorified rifles with more extra plastic and black stuff on them. It's interesting that rifles are like less than 1% of all gun deaths in the United States, which is weird to me, because obviously they become highly focused on when they are used, and particularly in two of the school events. But the one in, like, for example, Virginia Tech, which is the worst such incident, was handguns by an asshole. I mean, all these guys are assholes. But anyway, it's just wild, man. And I think the fact that we publicize them so much more than we used to. Like, there'd be one of these shootings, but it wouldn't be 24/7 news cycle on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. And some of these, I think, are turning into copycats. It's just, I don't even, let's put it this way. Putting a lid on the guns is probably too late, since there are 120 guns for every 100 people in the United States. And most of them are collectors. I was reading a thing today that 3% of the United States owns, like, it was some crazy number, like 95% of all the guns in the United States, because collectors. There are a lot of people who just collect guns, and I've never heard yet, I'm going to preface this with yet, but I've never heard of a gun collector who's been accused of one of these crimes. I've never heard of an NRA member accused of one of these crimes. And they always even though they'll blame those places. And there's also, it's also interesting because, so the assault weapon angle too, because they like to talk about AR-15s or whatever, AR-15 style guns, right? And I'm not a gun person, but I know that an AR-15 is basically just a modified, or a what's the word? Aesthetically modified rifle, that does a 223 or 556. There are plenty of wooden hunting rifles that are essentially the exact same rifle, but just instead of encased in, black plastic or black metal, they're encased in wood. And the bans that they're talking about would not make those rifles illegal, which is wild. I mean, and there's a lot of, mostly they're hunting and sport rifles. So it's just, I don't think that you take away a right of law-abiding citizens to, the criminals are going to get them. Seems like either way. I don't know. I have a challenge with this whole argument. It's one of these where I am fully in favor of the Second Amendment, and I know that I may be at odds with people who see these incidents and automatically have a knee-jerk reaction that it's the guns. Well, guns don't shoot themselves. So, I don't know. Anyway, good morning, Renee Mayette. Nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. All right. Anyway, so Cruz noted the Democrats filibustered. Oh, yeah, that's right. So after the Parkland deal, they've been going back and forth on passing legislation, and they came up with this legislation that most of the Parkland people agree with, and it got voted down. Anyway, Cruz noted that Democrats filibustered legislation that he created in 2013 with Senator Chuck Grassley that was designed to take guns out of the hands of felons and fugitives and those with serious mental illness. Grassley Cruz did three things. He explained first, it would mandate that the Department of Justice conduct an audit of federal agencies to make sure that all felony convictions have been reported to the database. Second, Grassley Cruz would create a gun crimes task force at the Department of Justice, specifically to prosecute felons or fugitives who tried to buy firearms illegally. In 2010, there were 48,000 felons and fugitives who tried illegally to buy guns. The Obama Department of Justice prosecuted only 44 of them. So we're not look, I think, as barbaric as it sounds, public executions might handle this too. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. That's wrong. Anyway, but 48,000 felons and fugitives tried to illegally buy guns. The Obama Department of Justice prosecuted only 44 of them. Now that wouldn't have stopped. No, again, that wouldn't have stopped this thing in Texas. Just saying. That is indefensible. Third, Grassley Cruz would have authorized $300 million for school safety improvement grants to harden our schools. When Grassley Cruz came to the Senate floor in a vote in 2013, 52 senators voted yes, including 9 Democrats. It was the most bipartisan piece of comprehensive legislation before the Senate. So why didn't Grassley Cruz pass into law if a majority of the Senate voted for it? Because Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats filibustered it. Cruz concluded on the matter. If you want to talk about policy proposals that could have stopped at least some of these mass murders, Grassley Cruz is a perfect example. Maybe. The illegally obtained weapons in, say, some of the cities, probably wouldn't have stopped that, but it may have stopped some. That'd been a start. Good morning, Midnight Chrome. Welcome back. Nice to see you again. In his closing, Cruz said, we must react to evil tragedy we must not react to evil and tragedy by abandoning the Constitution or infringing on the right of our law-abiding citizens. Now is not the time yet to yield to panic or intimidation or fear, he said. Now is the time is not the time for lies. It is not the time for empty political gestures. Now is the time for unity. Now is the time for love. And now is the time for action, protecting our rights and stop those with evil in their hearts and do everything humanly possible to protect our children and protect our families. So if you want to watch his speech, it is embedded in this article. And again, they'll be in the links at the end of the show. The single link called the one-tab link that I will update during the outro. Elon Musk also chimed in regarding gun rights. Elon Musk saying the right to bear arms is an important safeguard against potential tyranny of the government. Man, this guy, who is this guy? This Elon Musk guy. He seems to know our Constitution better than a lot of Americans do. Oh, I got to show you this one too that I have to laugh at. In an email exchange with CNBC on on May 25th, business magnate and entrepreneur Elon Musk said the Second Amendment, which provides Americans with the right to own and carry firearms, is an important safeguard against potential tyranny of government. He said, I strongly believe the right to bear arms is an important safeguard against potential tyranny of government. That's exactly what that last line said. God, I hate how these people write these articles. Historically, maintaining their power over people is why those in power did not allow public ownership of guns. Musk, reportedly the richest man in the world, with an estimated net worth of $209 billion, also said he supports tight background checks for all gun sales. Okay. And that sales of so-called assault rifles should be limited to people in special circumstances. So he's not 100% on board with everybody else, but whatever. Concerning recent mass shootings in the U.S., Musk said regarding recent events, the shooters are obviously doing this to generate the most amount of attention possible. Why is the media doing exactly what the mass murderers want? Wow. Based Elon. Anyway, so there's more in that article. We're going to skip. Now, speaking of the Second Amendment, I got to show you this. Hang on a second. I put it in my bookmarks. What else do I have in my bookmark? I didn't show you when I was in the bookmarks today. Oh, that's a different one. I'll go to that. I'm going to save for tomorrow. This woman, let's go put it right behind the other gun ones. Hello, Kessler. How you doing? So, there's some people who need remedial course on the Constitution. Hello, old guy gamer too. And roasted opinions. Wow, everyone's jumping in. Hey, everyone hit the like button while you're thinking about it, or while I'm telling you to think about it. Just saying. So, this woman. Well, first, let's start where this started. And I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So there's this tweet by this jackhole, Dean Obadiah. Who says, now, this is fascinating. He says there is no constitutional right to own a gun. That was literally made up by 5 GOP justices in 2008 decision of DC versus Heller. We need to make overturning Heller a cause like the right made overturning Roe versus Wade. And he wrote an article on MSNBC.com, and I'll have the link to that. This is the opinion right here, written by Dean Obadiah. He's a moron. Okay, so someone named the redheaded libertarian responded to that with a quote tweet saying Heller affirmed a constitutional right. Roe created one out of thin air. Now, that's an argument we can have that I tend to agree with in some ways. Well, I do agree with it because it's constitutionally well, there's a Second Amendment that's explicit, and there's the tape, like I said, the duct taping together different parts of the Constitution to come up with Roe, which actually I think Roe is a state issue. And again, I'm pro-choice for the most part, except for I think there should be certain restrictions. But the idea that it's a constitutional right, it's a state law right. Until someone amends the Constitution, it's not, and that's just my opinion. Okay. So now this lawyer. Now I don't know if you've come across Pam before, but Pam Keith Esquire. I think she's running for Congress in Florida. Oh, maybe she's not. She might have lost her primary, but I know she was running for Congress, right? Pam Keith, but she's very prominent on Twitter, has 149,000 followers, and she's a lawyer out of Florida, and she is just everything you would think a Democrat partisan would be. She says, after he said Heller affirmed a constitutional right, Roe created one out of thin air, she tweets back, "This is a fuckwit take on the law." Really? She says Heller created an individual right to own a gun for self-defense out of an amendment written to muster militias for the express purpose of defending the state. It's a bad law, full stop. Roe breathed life into every other constitutional right by holding that the right of a free citizen is the right to personal autonomy and privacy in one's own person. It is that concept that gives us every other right, like free movement, speech, religion, and life choices. Now, this woman is a lawyer who supposedly studied constitutional law at some point in her time in law school. And I'm just going to start with the fact that, first of all, the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, right? We call them the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, right? The Bill of Rights is the part of the Constitution that expresses the rights that we have in nature or from our Creator, right? However you want to say it. I don't care if you want to put a religious aspect or not. They are rights that human beings have that our government shall not infringe upon. Okay? So the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, is about individual rights. The individual rights that you have naturally by being a human being. Okay? That the government cannot infringe upon. Her idea that Heller created an individual right because saying the Second Amendment was not an individual right is already debunked, so to speak, by the wording of the Second Amendment. Because there's a comma in the Second Amendment. And the key phrase is, in the Second Amendment, shall not be infringed. It's the idea, oh my gosh, I know plenty of people are saying it in here, but the whole part about the militia, maybe if she'd just look at the Federalists, right, the Federalist Papers, she'd understand that the militia is not what she thinks it is. The militia is all the people. And the right is the right of the people. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. It just gives a rationale of why the people should not have their right to bear arms is not infringed. And, you know, when there were no restrictions then. They weren't restricting what kind of arms you could have when they made this law. You could have the rifles, the muskets, or whatever. You could own cannons. You could own explosives. You can own all kinds of things. Anything that that could be turned into an arm. That includes swords and, you know, flintlock pistols and whatever. Anything that was available, you could have. And only in years since have we begun restricting what kinds of weapons people could have. But the second part of that phrase is about the individual right of a person to keep and bear arms. Oh my gosh. Have a serious question. If I smack someone with a breadstick, am I protected under the Second Amendment? Well, the breadstick, absolutely, you are protected because you're allowed to have breadstick. That's the arms. Now, depends on why you smack someone with a breadstick. For example, if someone attacks you and all you have is a breadstick to attack them back with, well, fire away, right? Because you are protecting yourself. But if you assault your husband for the breadstick, okay, I'm never mind. What was Apicus gave an answer? Something, Alyssa, you have the right to bear breadsticks. Once you use it, that is assault, though. Okay, sure, you can assault somebody with a breadstick. Anyway, but that's the point I was getting to. Someone just said it here. Plague Dr. Zach. Every U.S. citizen is a member of the militia. Remember the words in the Constitution, and also the idea that, because so a well-regulated militia, that's the other phrase that these people get caught up on. And because she says that the amendment was written to muster militias for the express purpose of defending the state. That is false. Okay. Also, the words well-regulated militia, you have to go and look at the words that people used then as they do now. And someone brought up the other day in one of the things we were reading, yes, the word gay used to mean happy and now it means homosexual, right? Well, the word well-regulated, did not mean as in regulations the way we use the word today. It meant in good order, a well equipped. The phrase I suppose we use now, a well equipped and well in good order militia. In fact, I would even take out the word militia. The people who make up the citizenry of the United States would be that militia. So this is just crazy. And plenty of she got ratioed all to hell on this, by the way. Let's see. Let's change. Oh God. Okay. Oh, this is. Oh, I see what happened here. This is giving you different. Apparently, when you get ratioed, they protect you and they change the subject right in the middle of the in the thread there. I wanted to keep this up. Where is it? What the hell happened? Okay, hang on. Let me go back to bookmarks and put this back on the front. I will absolutely have this. There we go. I wanted some of the replies, and I didn't. Unfortunately, they have this. Oh, and the idea that Roe breathed life into every other constitutional. Right. Yeah, that is kind of an ironic phrasing. And can somebody explain to me why lawyers have a hard time understanding the Constitution? That's a really good question. Let's see the replies to that. I'm an attorney and I blame law school professors. Most of them are there because they know they are utterly incapable of practicing law themselves. See Elizabeth Warren for a reference. They finna drag you. It wasn't a constitutional right. Self-defense is a natural right. 2A tells the government to fuck off, basically. Anyway, and that pancake thing keeps coming up. Full stop is one of the phrases that make my eyes roll and immediately dismiss everything that was said before that. It says that the free state, not the government, learn the difference. So you never read Locke. The right to keep and bear arms always has been an individual right, just like every other right enumerated in the Bill of Rights. That's what I was saying. The Bill of Rights are all individual rights. The right to free speech, the right to not have your illegal search and seizure. The whole Bill of Rights, except for the 10th. If I think about it, though, I think the 10th is what the federal government can infringe on the rights of states to make their laws. But whatever. So, let's move on. Thank you, Tyler Alexander, for sponsoring the show with a small bullet in the tip jar. And thank you very much. Rome has fallen not by barbarians sieging their walls, but by traitors opening the gates. Look at every time weapons were taken away and given to a special class. You can get serfdom and slavery just with a nice veneer. The left has learned nothing. Well, that's that is very poignant, Tyre. And yes, it's always sometimes when people in the state get too comfortable and forget that they have also responsibilities is part of the problem. All right, real quick, I'm going to check my notifications here just to do a couple thank yous real quick. And thank you, Somnable Nation, for tweeting out the show. Greatly appreciated. And also Tall Person and Johnny Hellcat, thank you for tweeting out the show today. By the way, share the stream if you haven't done so already. Hit the like button at some point if you haven't thought of that. And if you want to sponsor the show like the aforementioned people, you can do so at pdognight.live is the Streamlabs link. You can watch the show, participate in the chat, and drop a couple bucks in the tip jar one now and then, or YouTube super chats, and there's a couple other options down in the description down below. All right, let's keep going. There's more on this. What the hell is going on here? Oh, okay. Let's go through this. I am going to go through. I wasn't going to do this, but let's go through Dean Obadiah's. Let's go through Dean Obadiah's editorial at MSNBC and see where he goes wrong. This is the one I just mentioned in that started all this nonsense. So he has an article here called "We Need More Than New Gun Laws. We Need a New Supreme Court." Oh gosh, just as the Supreme Court changes to after 60 years of liberal justice versus conservative justice, now finally, after all that time, there's finally a Supreme Court that maybe it's going a little bit the other way. Now we need a new Supreme Court. Yes. Now he starts here with James Madison's notes from the 1789 Constitutional Convention makes no mention of a right to own a gun for self-defense or recreation. Now, is James Madison the only person who wrote about the Constitution? I should go back and show you some other tweets real quick here, but I'm not going to. After the horrific massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead, America's outrage and desire to stop the carnage from gun violence is illustrated in a new Politico poll that finds nearly 70% of Americans support a ban of AR-15 type weapons, and 84% support banning sales of guns to people who mental health officials have flagged as dangerous. Okay. The mental health one, that's been in a bill that got denied by who? Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid. They filibustered that bill. But even if such laws were to be enacted on either the federal or state level, there's one big problem. The 2008 U.S. Supreme Court decision, District of Columbia versus Heller, in which the court, in a 5-4 decision, essentially rewrote the Second Amendment. No, it did not rewrite the Second Amendment. It did not. Holy shit, this guy. Hello, Green Badger Outdoors. To create a constitutionally guaranteed right for an individual to possess a gun, the right of the person to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Didn't say a reason. Other than, anyway, numerous local and state and federal laws drafted to reduce gun violence. No, they reduce people violence. In theory, but they don't reduce gun violence because guns can't be violent on their own. And in fact, if you saw the knife issue in Great Britain, you'd be amazed. Anyway, and save lives have been struck down by federal courts because they violate Heller. Just last week, in a 2-1 ruling of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit did? 2 Trump-appointed judges. Oh, that's why. Cited the Heller decision and struck down a California law that banned adults under the age of 21 from buying semi-automatic weapons. Any new laws that limit access to weapons will likely meet the same fate. Well, part of the problem is most weapons these days that you buy are semi-automatic. He doesn't understand what semi-automatic weapons are. He just assumes that automatically means AR-15s. Aren't most hunting rifles semi-automatic now? I'm assuming. Now the only gun I own is a 1873 trapdoor Springfield rifle that you put in one bullet, close it, and cock it one at a time, and then the next one, got whatever. But I've never used it yet. I'm working on it. I'm gonna get that thing working. Anyway, any new laws that limit access to weapons will likely be the same fate. That's why we need to make overturning the Heller decision a rallying cry the same way the right made overturning Roe versus Wade in its mission. Well, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Alyssa, oh, I own a gun? Well, yeah, okay, Alyssa and everyone else here. The gun that used to sit over the mantle in my parents' house, I now own. It's not functioning. It doesn't have a firing pin. It was sitting. Remember, Alyssa, when we go to your grandma's house, there's a gun that was mounted over the fireplace. Well, that is now in my possession, and I'm refurbishing it. That was my great-grandfather's gun, and I'm refurbishing it so that I can fire it at least one time before I decide to mount it myself. But I do want to fire once. Oh, and also, Alyssa, I may want to take it deer hunting with your husband because I want him to take me deer hunting someday. So there's your answer. Okay. Those of you who don't know, Liz is my daughter. Anyway, okay. He says we need to make Heller decision, the rallying cry, the same way the right made overturning Roe versus Wade its mission, even though there are some who say the Second Amendment should be repealed. Not happening. The amendment itself is not the issue. The issue is the GOP-controlled Supreme Court's rewriting of that amendment in Heller. No, they did not. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand that the Second Amendment was never intended to provide an individual a constitutional right to possess a gun. Whew, this guy's not. Okay, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. The language of this one-sentence amendment could not be more clear. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary for the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I'm sorry, did I get that? The well-regulated militia, a well-equipped and, let's put it in today's language, a well-equipped citizenry being necessary for the security of the free state, as in of a free state. Now, I'm curious too, when they say of a free state, they're not talking about the United States when they talk about that. They're talking about a state of freedom, although it is capitalized anyway. But this comma here, the comma here makes this. That's this is the reasoning, and this is the right. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. How is that not an individual right? I have no idea. Let's find out how he tries to connect this. The amendment connects the right to bear arms to a well-regulated militia, a well-equipped citizenry in today's language. And between ratification of the Bill of Rights in 1791 to the Heller decision in 2008, no federal court has ever interpreted it as a codifying an individual constitutional right to have a gun. Yes, it has. What's this? There's a decision in like the late 1880s that someone brought up. That absolutely talked about it as an individual right. Anyway, to the contrary, in 1939, while considering an appeal by a person convicted of violating the National Firearms Act, the Supreme Court ruled that unless the weapon had some reasonable relationship to the preservation or efficiency of a well-regulated militia, again, that was because the language changed because in the 1789, a well-regulated militia meant a well-equipped and serviced citizenry. We cannot say that the Second Amendment guarantees the right to keep and bear such an instrument. James Madison drafted the Second Amendment, and in his notes from the 1789 Constitutional Convention, there's not a single mention of an individual's right to possess a gun for self-defense or recreational use. Really? So not for hunting? Not for anything? I mean, do you have to? Oh boy, again. If the framers wanted to create a constitutional right to gun ownership, they then would have made the Second Amendment a mirror of the First Amendment. Just as they wrote that Congress shall make no laws respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise of speech thereof, they could have written, Congress shall make no law prohibiting the right of a people to keep and bear arms. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Oh boy. Anyway. Why didn't they? Simple. They were expressly tying the right to bear arms to militia service. They could call up the people to, oh my God. It's time to be blunt. Heller was a political decision, not one based in good faith reading of the Constitution. The National Rifle Association and the GOP have been working behind the scenes to achieve this result for decades, as detailed by a 2014 Political magazine article titled How the NRA Rewrote the Second Amendment. Written by who, though? Who wrote this? Remember, everyone has opinions, and there are just as many opinions disagreeing with what this said. Who wrote this? Michael Waldman is the president of the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU School of Law. He is the author of Second Amendment. He's an anti-gun person. Period. During Justice Amy Cohen's Supreme Court confirmation hearings in 2020, she argued against the idea that Roe was super precedent. Okay, there's a difference between a decision on something that's not expressly written in the Constitution than something that is not expressly written in the Constitution. So, for example, there have been many free speech articles or court cases where the free speech part and freedom of religion part is expressly written in the Constitution. Roe takes a little bit harder turn to convince that that's a super precedent or whatever. Anyway, meaning that it should never be overturned. She argued that super precedent status applies only in cases that are so well settled that no political actors and no people seriously push for their overruling. That is why we need to start openly demanding Heller be overturned so that it can never be considered a super precedent. The danger the Heller decision poses is still very immediate. The conservative-dominated High Court, based on the questions that were asked in oral arguments, are poised to strike down a New York state law that's more than a century old that mandates people show proper cause to obtain a permit to carry a concealed weapon. If the court strikes down New York's law, it will do so based on the precedent set by Heller. Of course, this is the same GOP-controlled court about to strike down Roe v. Wade out of a belief that states should be allowed to decide whether to limit or ban abortion, but it will gladly strike down the state laws that ban access to guns. Again, these are not constitutionally based decisions. They are cravenly political. Meanwhile, every week, the United States averages about 10 mass shootings. Averages? That is, in which 4 or more people are shot and killed. That's a crime problem, though. And because most of these, even that are classed as mass shootings, are in, oh my God, in crime-ridden areas that we seem not to be able to control at all. And those are not legally owned guns for the most part. Very few of the gun crimes in the United States are done with legally owned guns. And very few gun crimes in the United States are done with rifles of any variety. So your idea that you're going to, let's say you do ban AR-style weapons. And I don't care. I don't know. I mean, I don't know this difference. Even if you ban all AR-style weapons, if you confiscate every AR-style weapon in the country tomorrow, it won't cause a dip in the number of crime murders at all. Well, less than 1%. of crimes, of the gun murders in the United States are with rifles. ARs are rifles. And the number of people who die, 60% are suicides. But that's obviously not in the mass shootings. But in these mass shootings, none of them were done with ARs. Good morning, Moon. So I understand when these high profile events are with a certain type of weapon. Let's remember that all these crimes that he's talking about, the so-called 10, which they say 10 are 4 or more people shot, not killed, but shot, and are not done with ARs. They're done with handguns. So now do you want to ban handguns? Well, I know that Dean Obadiah does. He wants to ban all weapons for people. So it's a tough thing. I mean, look, NRA is hunting culture mostly and sport shooting culture. And so it's a tough subject, but damn, let's be serious. All right, let's move on. I left both those articles up they'll be in the tabs. Now, let's go back to the Buffalo shooting, which is kind of wild. There was a retired federal agent may have known of the Buffalo shooting in advance. According to a report, authorities are investigating whether or not a retired federal agent had advanced warning that a white supremacist was planning a murdering of black people at a supermarket in New York earlier this month. News comes after the attacker, who the Daily Wire is not naming due to the company policy about not giving notoriety to those responsible for mass casualty events, killed 10 black people in that attack at the Tops Friendly's Market store in Buffalo. The retired agent is believed to be one of 6 people who had regular contact with the attacker in an extremist online chat room. The 2 law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the investigation stated these individuals were invited by the assailant to read about his mass shooting plans and that the target location about 30 minutes before. Okay, this is that same article about that he invited people to be in his Discord. And the news reported that, but I remember reading that and I'm going, wait a minute. So that means they got an invitation and accepted an invitation to this guy's Discord server 30 minutes before it happened. I'm still skeptical about that, knowing how Discord works. But anyway, agents from the FBI are in the process of tracking down and interviewing the 6 people, including the retired agent, and attempting to determine if any of them should be charged as accomplices. Okay, that one's still a bit sketchy. But anyway, we do know that this retired agent had contact with this idiot. And so knew at least something about them. Wait, Alyssa needs to be grounded right now. Wait, but when he hunts, he can kill the deer with 1 shot. Clean kill, less chase, better all around. Wait, what? Wait a minute. Are you saying I can't go deer hunting with your husband? Now I got to scroll back here. What now? I'm going back in the chat here. Where's my daughter here? But when he hunts, he can kill the deer with 1 shot. Clean kill, less chase, better all around. Okay, now I gotta go. Hang on a second here. I gotta scroll back farther. Did you say I can't go deer hunting with your husband? I'll have to ask my husband what that means. Oh, unless you should give P-Dog a Springfield Arms M1. If I do go hunting with my son-in-law, I want to take the 1873 Springfield. So I'm going to have to learn how. It's a 4570 trapdoor, and that was the gun that basically all the buffalo hunters used to use back in the 1870s, whatnot. So let's go. Let's move on. So the president went to Uvalde, and this again, it's Breitbart, so take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, the border patrol agents, and cops who responded to the Uvalde shooting were uninvited for the Biden event. The cops that were there that they're investigating right now, why they didn't go in. I'm not crying for those cops being uninvited. Now, the one border patrol agent actually killed the guy. Good, but you know what? I have mixed feelings. Biden administration officials uninvited many of the border patrol agents and other law enforcement officers who responded to the Robb Elementary School shooting from the meeting with the president scheduled for Sunday in Uvalde, despite the event being planned for a large open space facility. Administration officials cited space as a reason for the retracted invitations. I think they could have just said the truth. You were uninvited because you didn't do your fucking job. I'm sorry. That's my opinion, and I'll agree with the Biden administration on this one for once. Law enforcement officers who responded to the Uvalde shooting at Robb Elementary School on Tuesday morning received an invitation to meet with the president during his planned visit to Uvalde Sunday afternoon. According to a senior Customs Border Protection source, the officers received an invitation late last week. Many had accepted and were scheduled to attend the private address from the president, but now they're being informed they're no longer invited. The meeting was specifically to address the law enforcement officers who responded to the shooting is part of the President Biden and First Lady Joe Biden's visits to Uvalde to address the families and of the victims of last week's shooting. Although the meeting is planned. Okay, so, yeah. I have mixed feelings, and mostly mixed feelings because they screwed up and so shouldn't be meeting the president and should be investigated. Moving on. In fact, the Justice Department is launching a probe of the police botched response to the school shooting. So there's an article about that. I'm not going to get into that. I'm kind of trying to be done talking about that. Who told the coppers to stand down? That's a great question. Who told them to wait? And why? Look, part of your job is to risk your life for others if you're in that position. And their protocol was actually to immediately attempt to stop the shooter or even the person with the gun. So they fucked up. I'm sorry. FTG to all of them for nobody going in and trying to take control of that situation faster. There were kids calling from the school as it was happening, saying that this guy's in there. And so I'm sorry, they should have gone in. But the other thing about this is Biden's Uvalde visit will be the closest he's been to the border since assuming office. Do you realize Joe Biden has not been to the border yet? We're 16 months? 15? 18 months into his presidency, and he has not visited the border one time. I'm not going to read this whole article. You can read it yourself. But his deliberate decision to avoid the ongoing border crisis because it's politically inconvenient for him is not an isolated event. President Joe Biden plans to travel to Uvalde this weekend to grieve with the community following the deadly shooting that left 19 kids. I'm going to stop. I'm tired of reading that sentence. And he's right to visit Uvalde, but there's no reason he can't visit the border too, even though he will most likely use his trip to grandstand about restricting Americans' access to guns. Uvalde is about an hour from illegal immigration hotspots such as Eagle Pass and Del Rio, making them an easy stop for Biden, who hasn't visited the border in more than a decade. Despite repeated calls for Biden to physically address the border crisis that he created by repealing Trump-era law enforcement, the White House did not announce any plans for the Democrats' motorcade to stop at the overwhelmed border. Deaths at the U.S. border, especially involving illegal border crossers, are on the rise after the president and his team explicitly welcomed illegal immigration. While it's difficult to calculate just how many tragedies have occurred since the Biden administration issued an unofficial gag order to cut off the press from accessing data held by federal officials, recent press coverage suggests that fatalities from drowning, heat exhaustion, and starvation are becoming more frequent. In 2021, at least 650 migrants died in their attempts to illegally cross the U.S.-Mexican border. So between, holy shit, between his executive orders repealing all the Trump era orders and the wave of people coming through, I think it's been 2 million since he's been in office. That's part of the job that he's not doing. But I don't absolutely. It's funny. A lot of these people crossing our border are not from this hemisphere. That's the bigger thing. How is it that we have people coming through the southern border illegally that are not from this hemisphere? As in the Western hemisphere, not this northern, but the Western hemisphere. Earlier this month, 2 Angolan brothers, 7 and 9 years old, died del Rio after they were swept away by the rushing Rio Grande while trying to illegally cross the southwest U.S. border with their parents. From Angola. I'm sorry, is there a land bridge between Africa and South America? There's a new tourism, specifically to illegally enter the United States from some countries in Europe, Africa, Asia, whatever. They're finding, people who, I understand the caravans that come from Colombia or Chile or wherever the hell they come from. But what is boggling my mind is the people who are not from any landmass that touches our landmass, or that you can't walk from. If you can't walk here from there, I don't know how you end up at our border crossing illegally. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Moving on. I got a couple other articles. I'm not going to get them today. One is called Regarding the Uvalde Shooter. Are we really being told the truth? Because the questions about the Salvador Ramos. First of all, how does a kid who apparently they said he lives in poverty, right? He's just turned 18, and yet he comes 2 weapons that are valued at roughly $2,200 a piece, and about another $1,000 worth of rounds, brand new weapons he goes out and buys legally at a gun store. Where did he come up with the money for this? He's supposed to be, the poverty-stricken family. He got bullied all the time, but he comes up with $5,000 to buy 2 weapons and ammunition and crash his grandma's. She had an F-150 that's newer than mine. How'd this happen? How did that happen? And so there's a whole article on this in the American Thinker. Like I said, I'm not going to go through it. This is it right here, even though it's not fitting on the screen, right? It's in the tabs, though. It'll be in the links today. You can check that one out for yourself. But it's a pretty good article. Anyway, how much time? Well, I forgot. I don't have a time limit, but I don't want to go much past 11 today. Let's see. And also, there's a phenomenon in media, too, that they talk about in PJ Media. This one I do want to go through. How and why the media deliberately inflates the numbers on school shootings. It's already no secret that the left and their partners in the mainstream media want to take guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. The lengths that they'll go to in order to argue for gun control are amazing, including inflating or at least confusing school shooting statistics. On Monday, NPR claimed that the terrible shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, was the 27th school shooting of 2022. This report insults the intelligence of listeners, but Robbie Swab reports that the statistic doesn't exactly tell the truth. So here's from his tweet thread. You may have seen the claim that Uvalde is the 27th school shooting this year. This is misleading. The other 26 were mostly incidents in parking lots or at sports games where 1 or 0 people were shot. Still bad, but not mass casualty events. The fact That fact makes it harder to view Uvalde as any... Wait a minute. He points out that the reason for hyping such big numbers is making it sound like the loss of life in South Texas is the norm, is mixing up three terms that the media conflates: school shooting, mass shooting, and mass school shooting. They do all sound similar, but here are the distinctions, Suave explains. The difference is significant. Education Week, which tracks all school shootings, defines them as incidents in which a person other than the suspect suffers a bullet wound on school property. Many of the 26 previous shootings involve disputes between students in parking lots or after athletic events, and all of them resulted in 1 or 0 deaths. These deaths are still incredibly tragic, of course, but they are fundamentally unlike what happened at Uvalde. Uvalde is a mass shooting. This is defined in different ways, too. An incident in which at least 4 people, some counters make it 3, are shot and or killed. The Gun Violence Archive counts incidents in which at least 4 people were shot. Under this definition, many incidents of street crime and domestic violence counts as mass shootings, even if no deaths result. A stricter tally of mass school shootings conducted by criminologists for Scientific American only includes incidents where the shooting results are at least 4 deaths. Using their criteria, the number of mass shootings in the U.S. since the year 1966 is 13. The crimes claim the lives of 146 people in total. There are a number of smaller scale shootings on school properties every year, but in the vast majority of them, 1 person is injured or killed. School shootings like Uvalde are far less common. Suave points out that the mass casualty events, on the other hand, constitute less than 1% of all gun deaths, while suicides and non-mass casualty murders, usually carried out with handguns rather than assault rifles, constitute the overwhelming majority of gun crimes. Of course, making these distinctions doesn't diminish the heartbreak and horror that took place in Uvalde. What it does depreciate is the narrative that mass shootings with endless carnage are the norm and gun control is the answer. Quote, given the sheer horror of violence in Uvalde this week, it's understandable that the public is interested in ensuring that such thing never happens again, Suave reminds us. But for the policy debate to be fruitful, people need to understand the actual contours of the problem. So, let's see. Mass shootings. So they took a Eucharist during, or did the just have a confessional? Good God. Good God. P-Dog, you need to watch Mr. Obvious breakdown of the shooting. I'll have to check that out. I will do that. All right, I'm going to get away from this. I have other articles. I'm done with the shooting. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm trying, everything I click has something to do with that. Apparently, Black Lives Matter is railing against Biden executive order. Oh, they're saying policing is a white supremacist institution. Okay. The radical activists group, Black Lives Matter, the organization, not the people who protest, the organization, railed against white supremacist institution of policing, decrying its roots in racism and slave patrolling, while attacking politicians who support our killers in a series of tweets Thursday following President Joe Biden signing an executive order on policing reforms. In the wake of the president signing an order intended to improve accountability in policing, the official Black Lives Matter Twitter account, which has over 1 million followers, expressed outrage over the fact that policing continues. What? You gotta have something. Quote, maintaining a white supremacist institution like policing costs Black lives, the group wrote. This continued commitment by politicians to support our killers makes them accessory to our demise. Okay, let me just put this in perspective. So last year, 9,300, I think somewhere around there, someone give or take 100, 9,300 black people were murdered in the United States, not by police officers. And I think it was, as far as people being killed by police officers, of the roughly 1,000, like 80 or 90% were in shootouts with them. And I think maybe 7 unarmed they say unarmed black people were killed by police officers last year, but 9,300 were murdered. Do we want to solve those murders? Who's investigating those murders if you don't have police? And the idea that policing takes black lives. I'm sorry. Policing costs black lives. Does policing save any black lives? I'm just curious. Anyway, in follow-up tweets, the recent policing reforms were deemed ineffective as the very institution of policing is described as inherently rooted in racism. Well, that's not true either. I know they like to bring up slave patrols, but there was policing in the United States before the slave patrols. The first police department was in Boston in I want to say 1700s or early 1600s or whatever. The slave patrols is more of a anyway. And then there was also that was the first policeman's department in the United States, and there were no slaves in Boston at the time. They weren't chasing down slaves. I'm sorry, and it's a root in race. The concept of policing started back in Great Britain. I mean, this is not new. Sheriff of Nottingham, think of that. Anyway, in the follow-up tweets, the recent policing reforms were deemed ineffective and the various blah, blah, blah. Politicians have been protecting systems of policing as if they could magically abandon its roots of slave patrolling and anti-black violence. Well, I'm thinking there's a lot more anti-black violence in the hood than there is from police, but I'm just saying. The tweet reads, banning chokeholds and requiring body cameras doesn't keep us safe. Being in the hood doesn't keep people safe. More money for training doesn't help keep us safe. How do you know? According to the organization, Biden's executive order willfully ignores the inherent racist origins of policing. Really? In Boston? And advances the same ideas over and over again as if somehow it will magically make old, outdated approaches work. Halfway measures will not save our people from white supremacy and state violence, it wrote. The divisive tweets followed the police order, which seeks reforms on racism and excessive use of force, and was signed on the second anniversary of the death of George Floyd, a black man who died after being restrained by a Minneapolis police officer in 2020, and whose death set off a series of violent riots nationwide. The signing also took place a day after the attack on an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, which left 19 children and 2 adults dead, God, I'm just tired of reading that phrase, a little over a week after 10 people were killed in a mass shooting in Buffalo. During the signing at the White House, Biden claimed, quote, the reckoning on race inspired 2 years ago is beginning to fade, end quote. The BLM movement first rose, okay, this just gives you some other background. There's kind of a disconnect there, especially a Black Lives Matter organization that's raised billions of dollars and basically has spent it on expensive real estate in often white neighborhoods. So I'm just saying. Yeah. Anyway, other articles are going to do. I'm going to skip some of these. This one I do want to go. Let me go. I'm going to come back to this. So, this is the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League report that cried white supremacists. In May 2021, 2 members of the family values a white supremacist premise. Remember I did this a while back, and so they're doing this now too. Okay, I'm going to read this one, and then we're going to just skip the others today, and you can just check out the tabs for the other articles I featured. In May 2021, 2 members of the, quote, family values, a white supremacist prison gang, allegedly killed a member of a rival Southwest Keys prison gang over a long-standing beef. 3 months later, a New Jersey man who had vandalized synagogues and distributed neo-Nazi pamphlets strangled his wife. Now, on the surface, the crimes appeared to have little more in common than their brutality, but the Anti-Defamation League includes these murders by white men of other whites in its tally of right-wing and white supremacist murders in its report, Murders and Extremism in the United States in 2021. This is that article I talked about last year. In 2021, this is the article. Quote, in 2021, white supremacists were responsible for more murders than any other type of extremists. Listen to the carefully worded sentence. In many years, they comprised an outright majority of the extremist murders that year, the report said. Indeed, over the past 10 years, white supremacists have committed 244, 55%, of the 1,443 killings that the ADL has documented. Now, here's something fascinating about that. Over the past 10 years, 244 of the 443 killings. How many people were murdered in that same time period? I'm going to guess about 100,000. But listen to the carefully wording here. A majority of the extremist murders, those two murders were included in extremist murders. Okay. The ADL also claims that other right-wing extremists were responsible for another 20% of extremists' killings. Now, not just killings, but extremist killings during the 10-year period, including those it describes as anti-government and incel manosphere, typically involuntary celibates or misogynists. So they include those too. Now, a lot of those people are not necessarily have anything to do with any white supremacy shit, but anyway. The report has been cited repeatedly in media pieces as evidence of the lethal threat posed by far-right extremists, since a mentally disturbed 18-year-old white supremacist murdered 10 African Americans and injured 3 others in Buffalo in a Buffalo market on May 14th. Its stark warning has helped provide the backdrop for the narrative advanced by the White House, advocacy groups, and national media outlets that toxic white nationalism permeates American society. White supremacy is a poison. It's a poison running through our body politic, Joe Biden said in a speech in Buffalo after the shootings. It's been allowed to grow and fester right before our eyes. Now, these are absolutely bad things, right? But the prevalence is what I'm talking about. It's one of these things that they keep saying, and it make you think, oh my God, this is the biggest problem in America. When it's not even. If it's 0.5%, and again, their definitions, extremist murders. That's not saying that the murder itself had anything to do with an extremist ideology. It just means people they identify as extremists murdered somebody else. See the difference there? But a closer examination of the statistics compiled by the ADL, which did not respond to requests for comment, but did email a letter post-publication, cast doubt on the using the figures as evidence that African Americans or any other Americans are an increasing or serious threat from racist white zealots. The report was publicized in a month of back-to-back massacres by mentally disturbed young men, the latest by a member of a heavily Hispanic community in Texas, suggesting mass killings defy pat analysis. Critics cite significant problems in the ADL presentation. Like other organizations tracking extremism, the ADL rarely offers context to claims regarding extremist murders by comparing them to broader homicide statistics. During the same 10-year period cited by the ADL in its 2021 report, citing 244 murders by white supremacists, there were at least 165,000 murders in the U.S., meaning those the group attributes to white supremacists accounted for 0.001% of such violent deaths in that decade. The statistic pales in comparison with those of major cities that have been seen shocking increases in bloodshed, with recent annual murder totals breaking or nearing records set in the 20th century. Chicago had 797 murders in 2021, its highest total in 25 years. I think they've already broken that this year. While much smaller, Minneapolis, 1 year after George Floyd died in police custody, had 96 murders, one shy of the 1995 record, when we used to call Minneapolis Murderapolis. Huge jumps in murders also occurred in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and other metropolitan areas. The FBI has not issued the official number of murders in the U.S. in 2021, but it is expected to exceed the number of murders in 2020. 21,570 of which, according to the ADL, 23 were committed by extremists. Get that number again. 21,570 murders in 2020. 23 were committed by extremists. Carl Moody, an economist at the College of William and Mary who studies crime, told Real Clear Investigations. The data presented by the ADL could also be characterized as follows. The number of murders committed by extremists is very small, only 29 in 2021, of which less than half were committed by white supremacists. Moody said it is also 63% lower than the maximum number, 78 in 2016. So extremism is down since 2016. In 2020, according to the CDC, 1,080 people were killed falling out of bed. Therefore, you are 47 more times likely to be killed by a bed than by an extremist. It's important that we get the numbers right and in perspective, said John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. And we have had mainstream narratives that make it sound like they are all like the Buffalo Killer. But there are very specific circumstances to a number of these shootings. If there is a significant threat to blacks from these kinds of mass attacks, they need to know that. Otherwise, you're creating divisions that don't need to be there. Here's some of the ones. Here's a couple that they include. And I remember reading these last year. These include a white supremacist with a swastika and SS tattoo on his face killed another man in an extended stay hotel following an argument over a social media post. They count that as an extremist killing. That sounds like that's why it happened, isn't it? An alleged member of a Fresno, California white supremacist street gang who allegedly shot a man with whom he had long been feuding. 4 members of the New Mexico Aryan Brotherhood who were involved in a shootout amongst themselves inside a vehicle. Extremist killing. What's your name? How you doing? At the same time, critics say the ADL overstates the percentage of white supremacist murders because it omits some high-profile crimes committed by non-whites. Lott provided 8 examples of mass killings traditionally defined as those with 4 or more fatalities, excluded by the ADL in this decade-long tally. One of those was a 2016 attack a black man launched against white police officers in Dallas that killed 5 and wounded 11. They didn't count that in their totals. Interesting. The ADL report also does not include more recent carnage in Waukesha, Wisconsin last November, when a black man with a history of racist social posts drove into a mostly white crowd in a Christmas parade, killing 6 and injuring 62. For 2021, the ADL lists just 2 murders by people it classifies as black nationalists. If the Waukesha victims were included, black racist murders would account for 23% of extremist murders, 8 of 35 in 2021. But it doesn't count that. So anyway, you get the point. But I went through that report, and it included, for example, in their report, it included a guy who was in prison, and apparently he was in a. This is the one that gets me the most. He was in prison. He joined apparently the white guys who have their own little gang to protect themselves from every other gang in the prison, right? He gets released from prison and he gets to go home. At some point, he and his wife, whether they don't know whether it was an accident or deliberately, killed their own son, and they buried him in the backyard. And somehow the police found them out and arrested them. And they counted that murder of their son as one of the extremist killings in the ADL report. Really? What part of the extremist had to do with the killing? And that's the thing. So they're trying to bolster these numbers to make it, and that's how some of the FBI ones are done too. And I've been reading through some of the reports, and they tell you the one they gave you 22 examples, right? And out of 22 examples of extremists or white supremacist killings, one was ideological. Most were arguments over one of them was arguments over a car that was supposed to be repaired in this car shop. I mean, or like the examples they gave here, they had nothing to do with their extremism, with their so-called extremism. They just happened to be the person who was labeled as an extremist murdered or killed another person. So sometimes when they use these reports, I mean, there some. I remember it was on right after the killing in Buffalo. Someone on MSNBC said all extremist killings in the United States were white supremacists. Well, no, that's not even what the ADL report says, but that's how they use these statistics to get people pitted against one another. And if they, it's almost as though the media's job now is to see how many people you can get pissed off at each other so you can cause more havoc, so they have more things to report about. And it drives me freaking insane. All right, I'm going to call it a day. There are articles. West Virginia, legally armed woman saves lives by shooting would-be mass shooter. Yes, a good guy with a gun stopped a mass shooting in West Virginia. Also, the Justice Department declines to prosecute FBI agents who mishandled the Larry Nassar case. If you remember that case, is that the guy from? Isn't that the doctor, University of Michigan or whatever, that was molesting his athletes? Is that right? Let's see. Dr. Larry it's Team Doctor. There's an article about that in Human Events. Also in New York Post. I suppose I could show you these headlines as I'm going through them so you'll know what's in the tabs. Why isn't this going? Okay, why? Oh, my mouse stopped working. That's why. So in the New York Post today, headline, video shows men holding down and beating an Asian man in a subway station. This is not good. Video circulating on social media over the weekend shows a group of people brutally beating an Asian man inside a lower Manhattan subway station. You can guess the demographics involved. It didn't make the news. Also, there's an article in Daily Caller. Every time Biden drains the strategic oil reserves, prices ended up higher. So he keeps, he's saying that he's going to, try to lower prices by taking oil out of the oil reserve. Well, you know what? To replenish that oil, you increase demand shortly anyway. Did we check out your friend's band yet? No, not yet. We will. I've got it written down now. Let's see. Senate Republicans and Democrats rebuked Joe Biden and Janet Yellen, saying tariffs are not the drivers of inflation today. He made this statement the other day that it was, that's another one of their excuses. Well, Trump's tariffs were causing inflation. No. The money supply is the big problem. And then how Biden stopped worrying and learned to love inflation. That's an article in the Washington Free Beacon. I haven't read that one yet, so I'm not sure what it's about, but I'm just telling you what's in the tabs. In legal insurrection, out of stock rates surged 70% for baby formula. It's getting harder and harder to find. And there's a follow-up article how the military action they're doing on baby formula isn't necessarily helping. So it's in one of the tabs here. In legal insurrection, remember that the bakery in Ohio that won a $36 million judgment against Oberlin College? Well, apparently the college I don't know if there's a law school at Oberlin, but maybe they should find a law school at another college. They failed to file a motion to abstain a stay of appeals. So in the motion filed in trial court today, if the defendants wanted to stay execution of the mandate of the Ninth District Court of Appeals, they were required to seek that stay in the Ohio Supreme Court. They did not. So the plaintiffs are working on getting that judgment executed, as in giving them their $36 million they won from the college for the professors and stuff that were claiming that they were racist for getting a shoplifter arrested, which the shoplifter admitted the crime. So anyway, I don't remember opening this one. The Shameful Six, never listen to these people again. This is from the Post editorial board. Oh, people who you should never listen to again. Let me just tell you who's on the list, okay? Here's the list. Dr. Anthony Fauci. Christopher Steele. Randy Weigarten, isn't she the Teachers Union, United Federation of Teacher president? She's one. James Clapper. This is and I think, is that all of them? Oh, I think one of them was, and Mark Milley. There you go. 6 people you should never listen to again. It's a good editorial. All right, gang, that's gonna be it. There's a couple other articles in the pipe, but I gotta be done because I got shit to do. So thank you for joining me today at the Morning Night Live. I greatly appreciate why the jury should convict Michael Sussman of lying to the FBI, but probably won't. Yeah, that, boy, oh boy, they certainly have the goods on him, but that part of the establishment that is Clinton centric probably is going to save that guy somehow. I don't know why, but who knows? Anyway, I got to go, gang. So thank you for joining me today on the Morning Night Live. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button before you go. Hit the share button. Share this out with whoever you can. Project 10,000 is in effect. If you can also do me a favor and if you want to put a comment in the comment section if you're watching on replay, and you know how to donate to the show. Thank you for our sponsors today. And who is it today? Let's see. I've got Johnny Hellcat and Ty Alexander are the sponsors today. Johnny Hellcat, you are the superstar sponsor of the day. Thank you very much. I got to go. I'll be back tomorrow with a normal show. Well, this was kind of a normal show, although it was later than normal. But I think that's it. Let me make sure I got the tabs so I can have that ready to go. All right. So that's it. My name's P-Dog Knight. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is P-Dog Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.